But we don't show prep, so so he had no idea.
I just barely make it in.
I'm sure you can tell, but we don't show prep.
I mean, let's put the cards down on the table here.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy, ha ha. It's a 6-ring Kane show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vision, DJ, break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. Real Portland live from the Hall Ride Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. We see the 6-ring champs. It's more than a dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards, a hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad. The 6-ring Kane show. The 6-ring Kane show. The 6 Rings Kane show. You know.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the 6 Rings Kane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
What's going on, everybody? Good evening and happy transfer portal day to all of you, by the way. It's been a chaotic, I don't know, what is it? 12, chaotic 20 to 21 hours already of college football transfer portal season, as we've seen some pretty big surprises, some stuff we didn't necessarily expect, but there's been a ton of starting quarterbacks that hit the portal, so that's interesting to see as well. But we've got a lot of players, a lot of really, really good players that are hitting that have hit the portal. So we'll talk about that. Miami is going bowling again finally. So congratulations to the Canes as they get to go to New York City to play Yankee Stadium in the Pinstripe Bowl against Greg Schiano and Rutgers. So.
Yeah, everyone wanted to play one of our former assistant coaches. They got one of them.
Right, yeah.
Wasn't the one they were talking about, but they got Schiano instead of Lashley.
There's a lot to cover there because obviously, that's where Cristobal got his start as well with what's up, Giuliano? It's my buddy, man.
I assume so with the Jazz and exclamation points.
Yeah, right. That's how he got started, right, with Coach Schiano. Back in the day. So we got a lot to cover there. But first, before we even get to all of that, I know a lot of the shows are starting off with this because it is fresh news from the college football playoffs. And I don't want to go into, whether they got snubbed or not. We're obviously talking about FSU, but it's more about from an ACC perspective. An undefeated team. I get that they've had their injuries now. All that stuff plays into what they talk about and how they put this together as far as the top four are concerned. My biggest thing is you get an undefeated ACC team who's beaten a couple of ranked SEC programs. May not have the strongest strength of schedule, but they went undefeated and they won their conference championship in a Power 5 program. So is this more reflection, and I'll start off with Vish and go around the horn with you guys on this. Is this more of a reflection on the conference itself and the amount of, I guess, lack of respect or lack of power that this conference has? I'll ask that first question to you, Vish.
Yes, that's part of it. The other part is the power the SEC does have. And I think it's probably the second more so than the first. If Jordan and Travis hadn't got injured, they would have found another reason to somehow shoehorn Bama into there. They were not going to lock out the SEC, period. There's too much money invested in them, in their brand as we are far superior to the rest of college football. And you know what? This year they were not. Like the ACC had a winning record against them. They had the worst out-of-conference record of any Power 5 conference. They lack the quality wins, and they weren't that good. And that's why they were in a predicament here where they're sitting there with a conference whose name, brand, and reputation is they're far superior to everyone else. And the football on the field did not bear that out this year. And the committee was totally fine. And this is why I say had more to do with the SEC than anything else. The committee was totally fine with Florida State being fourth last week when Georgia was 1. So they got Georgia in 1, they got Michigan 2, Washington 3. FSU's fine at 4 then. Once Alabama beats Georgia, now they're in deep shit because now you can't put Georgia in front of Alabama. But here comes Texas. You can't put Alabama in front of Texas. What are you going to do? You're going to make up a reason. Oh, the quarterback's injured. Keeping in mind, they're talking about how they watched this Louisville game and, they're just not the same team. That is not the quarterback. Say what you want about Rodemaker. He's better than that piece of crap they were throwing out there on Saturday. And they're judging them off of a game with a quarterback that is not even going to play in the playoffs. They were going to come up with a reason. There was just no way in any circumstance they were going to put 4 teams out there where one of them was not an SEC team. Yeah. So, yeah, part of it is the ACC's weakness to not be able to head that off. Like, the commissioner should have immediately been like, don't you dare do this. We'll implode our TV contracts with you. Because while the schools have all given their rights, and we've talked about this on the show in the past, to the ACC can middle finger ESPN, break those contracts and say, like, we're going somewhere else. Screw this. We're not doing this. And like, they just have no political capital. They have no foresight. They should have been all over this. Should have never even let this get to the point where they could consider putting Alabama in. Now, once that conversation started, you saw ESPN was clearly manipulating it. They're getting Greg Sankey on there and interviewing him. And it's just like, you could see it coming. And actually, say what you want about one of Florida's senators, but Rick Scott, I'm sure everyone saw this, sent a letter to the committee, and it's got a lot more important stuff to worry about than this. It's not going to go anywhere. But he knows exactly what happened, which everyone else did, because he asked for like 10 pieces of information. Number 5 was all communications between ESPN executives and the playoff committee. And number 6 was all communications between the playoff committee and SEC executives. And there's a paper trail there that's going to show exactly how this happened. It has nothing to do with Jordan Travis being injured or any kind of, we were evaluating, we just couldn't. BS. The money is in the SEC being the best conference, and you cannot have them not even be top 4. And that was the end of it. And that's who manipulates this. They have a 5-hour selection show because ESPN put money into this. And all of their money is tied up in the SEC because Fox has a bunch of money tied up in the Big Ten. The SEC, they bought those rights away from CBS. Like, CBS doesn't have this anymore. It's all there. And ESPN controls the playoffs. They control the narrative. And they were not going to have their investment lose value. And that was the end of it. So the ACC absolutely could have done something by being an actual conference, but God forbid they have any foresight. They sent a strongly worded letter after the fact. They should have been right in there. Like I said, they should have had their commissioner on TV saying, what are you effing kidding me? Because on the surface, it's absurd to leave out the undefeated team. They allowed that train to kind of leave the station, pick up momentum, and then they got run over by, like, I can't believe this happened. So, yeah, that's where there's definite weakness on the ACC's part as well.
Blue, just to kind of piggyback off of that, right? You've got a lot of teams that are upset. Excuse me. You got a lot of teams that are upset in the conference. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk already about a lot of teams moving or leaving, and I know that there's a lot of contractual obligations which might, hinder that. But you're also seeing teams that are trying to find ways to do that, right? Do you think that this is going to start I don't want to say a mass exodus, but this is going to start the actual legitimate movement on some teams like Clemson and FSU, Miami, and maybe another top program in the ACC to really consider figuring out a way to get out of this conference. And should they even try to do that?
I wouldn't do it. Because you're going to go to another conference. You still have to play a schedule, and you'll still get axed out being in another conference. I mean, I don't see all that. I mean, pretty soon you just have one conference, and that's how they'll do it. But listen, what happened is never. Well, actually, Vish says it can happen next year. I just because you're going to have a team.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you're going to have.
Well, no, I mean, there's going to be more teams in a conference
not
championship.
to this magnitude, but I understand.
Yeah, but
I wouldn't.
But I feel like. Yeah, so what we were talking about before you showed up, Jazz, is like, this playoff format's going away, right? So there's not going to be a conference champion of a major conference left out because the new criteria is you automatically get in.
Right.
But we could very realistically, our own school be sitting here with 10 wins and having them argue that an 8-win Kentucky team is actually better than us because they lost to Auburn by 10 points and we, lost to Florida State by 4 points, but really is Florida State even good or something? And that'll be for like the 10th spot. And it's not as high stakes as this because this is like criminally absurd what they did to Florida State. Whereas if you're 10-2 or whatever, it's less of a, you could have won another game or whatever. But it's still going to be it's just simple economics. The money and power is concentrated in 2 conferences. If you're not in one of those, I think what yesterday was kind of shocking how far outside of that the ACC is versus because you figured, all right, at least we go undefeated in a major conference. That's got to mean something. It doesn't mean anything.
Yep. And DJ, lastly but not least, all right, we've got a lot of things to cover today. Do you think FSU got screwed? Do you think they got screwed? Do you think they should be in the playoff?
Yeah. And, say what you want about maybe the parity that the expanded playoff will provide, but kind of what Vish said, in a way, I still think it's going to be an opportunity for the SEC to assert their dominance unfairly in a playoff setting. And Florida State did get screwed. I mean, I've heard theories that, FSU may not be a good matchup to watch. So, that was a reason why they were left out of the college football playoff. That shouldn't matter at all. They went undefeated. They suffered a major injury to their quarterback, and yet they were able to get the job done. So they absolutely did get screwed, and I don't see it getting better with the expanded playoff.
I will say this. I will say one thing, right? So, if you go exactly by what the criteria was to put teams in the playoff, I know it sounds like a crappy criteria, but one of the criteria was apparently, and I'm not going to say it verbatim, obviously, but injuries and player coach availability for that game, right? For the playoff games. And then there's obviously the other ones, conference championships, yada, 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 whatever. Just based off of that, I see why that decision was made. And I know this is an unpopular opinion. And while I do think that they deserve the right to be there, I think they got it right at the end of the day. I know that's the unpopular opinion because, some may say this is, FSU's undefeated and yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, from a purely football perspective, forget about everything else. And I this is my opinion. I think they got it right at the end of the day as far as.
I have a question about that, though.
My problem with that, though, is I think you'd have a stronger argument if Alabama didn't struggle in half their games this year. They have not been that good this year. And to me, they're riding on the coattails of where Alabama. They almost lost to Auburn last week. Auburn sucks. They struggle bad with USF. They had to win that game at the end. Like USF, this is not your tip. Like if they came through and just rolling over people, you're like, God, they're playing at such a high level now that how do you keep them up? They've been struggling week in, week out the entire season. And they lost at home by double digits. Yeah, they almost lost to USF. They almost lost to Auburn. They needed a miracle to win that game. So when it would be a different thing if they were so dominant and had something where they stubbed their toe on the road or something. That's just not this team. And the problem I have with the injury clause, and you're absolutely right, it's in there. They have their disclaimer in there that they could use, which they've never chosen to use until now. But what happens if like Milroe gets injured in practice now and he's out? You pull them out now? Because there are other quarterbacks in the portal, they're going to just direct snap to receiver. It is all just it was the answer was we're going to put Alabama in, and then they filled in the justification. Whether or not you think Bama is better or not, that's not why they actually did it. Because that's not how they think. This is money and power. Yeah. Well, you know what? They're not undefeated in the Big 12 because Texas went in there and kicked their ass around. So, like, I think, you know, the fact that the SEC is...
Again, they also take into account, you know, and we could be doing this all day, right? Is, you know, early on in the season, they struggled. They you know, the quarterback didn't play against USF, Jalen Milroe, for all intents and purposes, the kid, if you ask me, next year he's a front runner for the Heisman.
Yep.
They didn't struggle. They only struggled. They did struggle against USF, but without him. And then they struggled with Auburn. But
they struggled with Arkansas as well. They won by 4.
They did. I remember
Arkansas is
that,
a 4-win team. Like I'm saying, this is not. I'm not saying they're not a good team. They're a really good team. They might win the damn championship. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, for me, and again, this is opinion. This is the problem with
the same argument could be made for Texas, right? I mean, they struggled against, you know, Kansas State.
They got lucky that Kansas State missed it. They lost to Oklahoma. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess and any of these 4 teams can win the championship. So I'm not saying Alabama's bad or anything. I'm saying if another team from a different conference with a different name on the helmet had that resume, this would not have even been an argument. Like, you can't do that. It was actually what ended up happening is they were weighing the thought of locking the SEC out against the thought of leaving out an undefeated P5 team, and they said, we're not locking the SEC out. That was the decision they were making. And if Texas hadn't beaten Alabama, they would have tossed Texas out and put Florida State in and not had a problem with it.
For sure.
Even with the same record and everything. If Texas had gone in and won at Georgia instead, it just happened to not be the team that they played directly. Then they could have left Texas out and been fine with it. And that's why if Georgia had won, I think it would have been Georgia. It would have been Michigan, Washington. I think they would have left Florida State in 4 where they had them before the –
Yeah.
Because I don't think they would have leaped Texas over them at that point. But they had to put Texas in front of Alabama because they beat them by 10 in Alabama. And then that left them in a position where using the criteria they'd used the last 10 years,
would have been
Florida State in there. Yeah. And so it's just it's
crazy. It's crazy. But anyways – all right.
Well, we should. I've been too Florida State positive, so I'm just going to share this so we can move on. Because you know what? F you. You insulted our school and you got karma up your ass. If you read the shirts.
Yeah. I was reading the shirt. All right. Jesus.
There's a shirt on top of that.
That's not the best shirt to put that on, okay? This is what
it is what it is at this point. But
that's supposed to make me angry, but okay.
Yeah, right?
Well, not us, because we're good either way. But anyway, you know, they
congratulations to Miami of Ohio.
Oh yeah, they did win their conference. We bested a conference champion.
11 wins.
Big time for Miami.
That's true. That's true.
By the way, shout out to FSU for luck. Maybe they should stop doing the racist chant and the luck will go their way, because they also won the ACC in basketball and were like a top 3 team in the country the COVID year when they canceled the postseason. So they're just they're right. They're getting it all.
Karma is a bitch. But anyways, moving right along, we've got as I mentioned earlier, this is the start of the college football transfer portal season, and
free agency.
Louise, what a start it has been. You know, obviously the biggest news is a lot of these, you know, these big time quarterbacks, Kyle McCord out of Ohio State, Cam Ward. You know, we've got DJ Uiagalelei. Got Blake Shapen, obviously at Baylor. Who else?
Will Howard.
Will Rogers, right? Aiden Childs is another big time prospect that hit the portal.
Grayson McCall, I think, too, should be.
Grayson McCall is another one, right? So Jordan McLeod now from James Madison, or if he hasn't, he may be thinking about doing it. So there's so many different. Tyler Van Dyke, by the way, he you know, I got to mention Tyler Van Dyke.
He's a good pickup. We should go get him.
Yeah, you should go get someone that's got ACC experience.
Oh my god,
That'd be crazy.
By the way, if you hadn't been our quarterback 100%, our fans would be like, "Go get that guy." Did you see his arm strength?
for sure, man. Are you kidding?
Johnson will coach him up. He'll coach those interceptions out of him.
Rob Vandegrift is another one. Dante Moore, obviously, that's another big name. Blue, just before you
Dylan Gabriel.
Other positions, right? This quarterback class for the transfer portal is completely loaded. Obviously, Miami's probably been in touch, you know, with some of the guys, and some of them are coming in for visits. They're calling some. They're gonna go see some. You know, Miami's looking now. The strategy has been for Mario Cristobal to kind of just sit back and say, well, you know, take your time, pick us if you want. But no, I think he's changing that, right? And I talked to you a little bit earlier today about his philosophy and the transfer portal changing. This is what I wanted to kind of elaborate on tonight. Is he's not now laying back and waiting for the players to make their decisions that way. He's going after them. He's saying, pick us. Here's your offer. If you don't like it, we keep moving forward. We keep going. If you don't want to be here, keep going, right? And he's just going and going and going and going. And he's being very aggressive in the transfer portal this season. Out of those quarterbacks that you're hearing names of Miami being tied to, who is not necessarily, obviously there's big names, right? But it's not, may not necessarily be the best fit. Who do you think is the best fit for Miami right now? Who do you think Miami, Mario and that staff should go after right away to get here?
I like Will Rogers.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Let's take Will Rogers off the table because he's apparently been, linked to Washington. It looks like he's going to go to Washington. So let's take Will Rogers off the table because apparently he was the top option for Miami. He decided to go elsewhere. So let's talk about
the Washington State kid's going to be going, I think, to Duke or North Carolina.
Cam Ward, that's another. So if you had to pick a guy, who do you think would be a great?
I like Cam Ward, but he's not going to come here, unfortunately. There's so many. I mean, like you said, McCord, all those guys like that are leaving for a reason. See, that's the way I always figure. If you're leaving for a reason. Either it's been you or it's been the team. And DJ is, I don't think he was, I don't know if he'd be the answer too, because you got to get a more mobile guy.
Sure.
I'd like to see somebody who runs the ball a little bit. I don't know. There's a ton of kids out there, but I don't know. It's tough to say who would be a fit.
So let's make a better question for you. What type of quarterback do you want? Do you want the young gunslinger type guy? Do you want the guy that's going to manage the game? Do you want someone with a lot of experience, or do you want one of the younger kids, like a 5-star that played, went to school last year, but he's transferring out? Like, what type of guy do you want?
I want a junior, senior type kid. With experience that could teach the younger kids that are here a little bit about the game they could follow in his footsteps, because certainly weren't learning anything from Van Dyke. He had no leadership. He had basically at the end, he had nothing. So I'd like to see a veteran guy come in here with experience, somebody who can run this offense, but not count on him to do everything but manage, like you said. Because they've got weapons. That's not the deal. But what they're doing now is they're waiting till the declarations and the transfer portal is finished here, and then they'll start replacing. I know that's what they're doing. So you don't want to load up on a position that you're not going to lose anybody. Now they're losing obviously the secondary, got to get safeties.
Right.
But quarterback wise, it's, I don't know. If I had 4 quarterbacks that I knew were going to come here, I could probably break them down. But my deal is that I'm going to end up talking about a kid that ain't going to come here. So so who would you think, Jazz, that would be a perfect fit that's out there?
Well, here's another one I forgot. Dylan Gabriel's another kid that one was really shocking to me, that he would get up on out of there. But his offensive coordinator did leave as well, right? So took the head coaching job at Mississippi State. So that might be something. Did the Liberty quarterback, did Caden Salter enter the portal? I don't know if he did.
I didn't see that. No,
I didn't see him. No.
I didn't see it
I don't
either.
they got a chance to get beat by 5 touchdowns in the bowl game, so why not? Just
Yeah,
Why
but
not?
blue. They belong in that game though, as the committee chairman said. They
Yeah,
won all their
yeah,
games,
yeah.
And that's what's important. He seriously said that with a straight face after, because they're like, "How's SMU not in there when they played in a much better conference?" and
there's
clearly
another
better than
team.
Liberty.
Congratulations to Lash.
Rhett Lashley, yeah, and they got hosed out of. They should be in a New Year's Six bowl and got screwed because they put Liberty in, and the rationale for putting Liberty in is, well, they won all their games.
Yeah. But
He
you
said
see
it
who
with a
they
straight
played?
face. So I give Boo Corrigan, is actually the guy's name, straight credit, man. He said it with a straight face after spending the last hour explaining why it didn't matter that Florida State won all their games. So go and just say, like, well, Liberty won all their games. Didn't play a Power 5 team the whole year.
Oh, the other quarterback, another familiar name, Toledo, the quarterback for Toledo, entered the portal as well. So
He may be a good, he may be a guy.
Yeah.
So-
Well, so Jazz, DJ, and Blue as well. Get your take on it. I think we need more than one.
yes,
I think we need that guy with 1 year of eligibility, and then we need, like, you mentioned like the 5-star freshman that might not have panned out or just like looking for a fresh start after a year. That's maybe willing to sit a year or two. We need that guy too.
Right.
Like we need both, in my
No,
opinion.
I agree.
So,
I completely agree.
If you do that, and DJ, I'll let you go with this also. If you do that, then I know Miami has a plan, and Blue knows this as well. You know, they've got a plan and how they're gonna write this thing out. I know they're gonna be aggressive in the portal with certain positions, and then some other ones they're gonna wait a little bit, as Blue mentioned, because this is the first wave. But I don't think he's gonna sit back too long in the first wave because he's gonna have to go and get some of these big time guys. Like, look, I'm not saying he's coming here. I don't think he is, but Walter Nolan, right? Quite frankly, he's probably the best defensive tackle in the country.
Oh yeah, he's a beast.
Entered the.
We're in on him before.
Well, exactly, we were, but
Yeah.
I don't know if he's an Alabama or a Georgia guy, if you ask me, right? That's probably where he ends up. Evan Stewart is another guy that entered the portal. So there's a lot of players, but
But everybody said the same thing about Scott too. So
you never know.
you never know.
David, where did he transfer to? I don't even know. I can't believe I missed that because I really like Salter. So
Salter transferred already?
Apparently, let me know, David. Let us know in the chat where he transferred to because I don't even know that. I must have missed that one. But if he
Pins
asked
are
me,
flying today.
if you ask me my top 3 guys, remove the helmet because I know this is going to be the biggest thing for a lot of people. But I think McCord is a big time prospect. I think he's a big time guy that can come here. I like Will Howard to a certain degree, the kid from Kansas State, and I think that I like. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. I think I either like the kid from Toledo or Dante Moore. Vish, that's just based off of Dante Moore's going to have 4 years here, right? Basically, or 3 years of eligibility, and then you can get a guy like a 1 year guy like a McCall or something like that. So there's a lot of different combinations. I like McCall as well. If you tell me McCall's going to transfer here, I mean, that's great. I love it. Let's do it. Cam Ward, I love it. Let's do it. But for me, it's about there's a lot of people are saying, I just want the safe pick. I want the guy that's not going to turn the ball over. I want the guy that's not going to make a lot of mistakes. That's going to understand the offense and get through his progressions and yada, yada, yada. I know a lot of people talked about Blake Shapen as well, George. He mentioned Blake Shapen.
Yep.
That's another big time name, a really good quarterback as well that can sling it. So I think you get 2, like you said, Vish. I think you get one guy that has, that it factor where he just goes out there and slings it in. He may make a mistake or 2, man, but if everything goes right throughout the season, the team stays, intact. There's consistency. He's not injured. Then you go after a guy like Cam Ward or Will Howard because those guys are they're gonna win you a lot of games. They could make you lose 1 or 2. So everything has to kind of go right. It's kind of like the Tyler Van Dyke effect, right? So that's the biggest thing with.
But I also think it's important that
like Kyle
It's important that whoever.
those guys are going to win you football games, and they're very consistent, very good at what they do. So
I don't know that, the way we run our offense that we're going to ask the quarterback. I think Van Dyke was the bad fit for this because he's a gunslinger. I think, excuse me, I think we're run heavy. We're going to lean on the offensive line. That's what we're going to do. We need the quarterback to be accurate. We need him to make the right reads. We don't need him to be a hero. And Van Dyke was way too hit or miss.
Yeah.
He would go for the home run. When he hit it, you're like, wow, did you see that throw that man just made? And then the other shoe drops. And you're like, how did he throw into triple coverage? It's the same throw. He just fit it in that one time. And you're like, wow, that's great. So I do have this is a good question from the chat.
I think a lot has to do with him not reading the defense and reading the the play correctly. Because
there's a lot that goes into it. Yeah,
as run heavy, I don't think we would have been as run heavy, or we would be as run heavy if we get a quarterback in here that can come in and understands what he has to do as a quarterback. He'll be able to throw the ball around a little bit more, find the right receivers, find the right the right targets, and so on and so forth. It can get complicated. I don't want to kind of go into the
no, I agree. It certainly as the year went on, and I think we were pretty much evenly balanced against Boston College, which was the goal.
Right.
I think to be more balanced. We kind of went from once he couldn't hit anything but defenders with the ball, it became a situation where, all right, we're going to run a lot more. I do want to bring this up. I mean, we do have one quarterback
on JV. I don't think so, but I'll let Blue answer this. What do you think about JV? Larry. Yeah, what happens if he looks good? I think there's already a plan in play for him, but what do you think, Blue?
Well, I guess you got to wait. Let's see what happens. He's given the entire reins, so it's not like they have anybody to pull him for. So he's going to play it. He's playing against a pretty active defense. Rutgers has a pretty good active defense, but give him. Let's see what happens before you make a decision, or before he makes a decision.
Yeah, I guess where do you think his head is? Does anyone have an opinion on that?
His head's here now, or he would have been gone. So
yeah, he's still here. I think he's still ready to be the.
So you think he's here next year? You think he's here next year?
I think right now he is. Yes, but like Blue said, you got to wait and see what happens with.
Let's see what happens.
With the transfer portal.
Well, I think the other thing is, we've been talking about all these names in the portal. Might not be a great year for him to go into the portal. What are his options at this point?
Well, it depends on what a team needs. So, for instance, if Miami goes after that 1-year guy, right, that senior, that 5th-year guy, and that's it, then Jakari might say, all right, well, I, still stay. I still got eligibility. I redshirted this year. Still got 3 years. This might be a good opportunity for me to continue to develop. And, I've only got this guy in front of me, right? Where it gets complicated is next year and the year after, 2025, when you got Luke Nickel coming in, who, by the way, threw for 434 yards right after he was on our show. So I think, listen, Judd and everybody else that's a quarterback for Miami, if you want to have the game of your life, you need to come on our show first, and then after that, I can almost guarantee you that you're going to ball out. So
wow,
saying.
what a turn of events from last year when we were the curse. Now we're
I know.
It's like anytime we even mentioned someone on the show, it would go downhill for that. But
I know, that's funny, right?
That is true. There is some young talent coming in that they're also going to have to compete with. I guess my point on JB though is, even if he's like, I'm probably not going to play here. Like, is he better off sticking another year here and then going to the portal next year, just given how many quarterbacks jumped in there? Like, he's going to be, he's not top 10. Is he top 20 right now if he enters the portal? Like, so where is he going? Unless he's just like, knows he wants to go down a level and he knows like a good landing place for him, that he knows the coaches or whatever. He's like, this is a good place for me to go. He's certainly not going to go to like.
Or something.
Right.
Yes.
Right,
well,
right.
Whatever, where if he knows, like, otherwise, I feel like he's almost better off sticking here another year and hopefully has a friendlier environment next year.
I think once you see all those quarterbacks that pop out, you're like, geez. And look, maybe not all of them go, right? Some come back. They're looking for better deals in the NIL, right? That's what
you're giving up your scholarship. So, that's another thing. If you're a parent, you say, hey, sit tight. You know, you're getting it paid for here, but you know,
Oh, yeah.
I don't need to be starting to pay for your tuition.
That's
So
true.
I'm sure.
And the other
there's a-
thing is
you
that
know
this
what?
year is
But look into the portal, and there's 1 trillion kids into the portal. Who's giving them advice? I'm just
yeah, no,
I'm
I saw
baffled.
someone I can't remember who, and I wish I could because I would like to credit him. Someone tweeted out a lot of these kids entering the portal don't realize they're never going to be on a college football team again
No,
because the school they're coming from is like, all right, see you later, and no one's going to pick them up.
I agree.
Like,
I
there's not an
agree.
infinite number of scholarships. The market is flooded because the COVID years are still around. Like, people, there's just extra players right now. Until
If
all
you're
those
just
works
running the
as-
run because it's popular, you're making a
Yeah.
mistake.
Yep. DJ, I want to kind of get your take on moving from the quarterback position. A big position of need is the safety position as well, right? We've got Cam Kitchens and James Williams potentially both going on to the NFL. Yes, Parrish has mentioned this. I'm hoping to bring in some safeties. There's some names out there that have already been. There's some names that have already been spoken about. I know the Vanderbilt kid, Savion Riley. The kid over at Indiana, that's a local kid, Dunham, I believe his last name.
Yeah, from North Miami Beach, Phil Dunham.
There you go, Phil Dunham. He's another big-time prospect. You got the kid from Ohio State, Kai Stokes. And the list goes on and on, right? Which, by the way, what's going on, Max? Talk about mass exodus. 11 players, I think, already entered transfer portal at Ohio State. But talk to me about what you want to see from that position, because what you have coming back, DJ, is Jaden Harris, who looks really good. Looks like he can come in and make an impact. Then you've got Caleb Spencer, who's more of that linebacker hybrid type of guy. And you got some other kids. Markeith may stay, may go. Who knows what's going to happen there? So what do you want to see Miami do in the transfer portal from a safety perspective?
I'd like to see them get an athletic playmaker, and by athletic playmaker, I mean somebody who can cover the field quickly. I mean, you know, we're going to be filling a big void at the safety spot. I mean, there's no doubt about that, obviously. So for right now, I mean, you mentioned the names that we have at the position. I'd just like to see somebody come in and be able to cover the field quickly, be good in coverage. And I was looking actually at some of the names today, and, you know, Philip Dunham is obviously, you know, the top safety in the transportal rankings right now. I think he would be a good fit. He last played at Indiana, and, you know, I think
He originally committed to FSU as a receiver.
that's right.
So, yeah, he's a great athlete.
So I'd love to see a guy like him, because I feel like, you know, Miami has done a good job of recruiting and developing safeties. And I know this isn't the same thing as recruitment necessarily, but safeties, you know, they've seemed to have, you know, panned out really well at Miami, and Miami's been able to make the most of that position. So I feel like a guy like Dunham would be able to fit in well here and, you know, take his career to the next level.
Blue, another big time name that's in the portal, I believe it's Kamari Wilson. Talk to me a little about Wilson and Dunham both, and maybe even some other guys that you could potentially see Miami going after. Like, what kind of safety do you want to see? Because I look, it's going to be hard to replace a Cam Kitchens, right, or even a James Williams. But if you can get a guy with some talent in here, like a Dunham, you've got yourself an opportunity to be pretty good there again, right?
Yeah, well, and Kamari Wilson too. I mean, Kamari's a beast. I mean, he's a hard hitter. He's a guy who can cover a lot of ground. He's a really good football talent. I watched the kid when he was in 10th grade, and you could just tell he's going to be something special. And he works hard, smart guy, knows a lot of people down here. And yeah, Phil Dunham's he's just an exceptional athlete. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And play both ways. See, the advantage that you have coming out of North Miami Beach is you play both ways from the time you're in 9th grade. And Phil was a receiver, and he was a DB, and then he was a safety, and yeah, he's, he'd be a great fit. I don't know how, their coach pretend he's not really, maybe he's on different terms with Mario than he was with the rest, but they've avoided a lot of NMB players like Steve Ishmael, went to Syracuse and led the country in receiving. And he kind of just, EJ Biggers, who ended up at Kansas, guys like that Miami spurned. And he may be Jonathan Cyprian, who ended up at FIU, Louis Delmas, guys like that all came out of NMB. So hopefully Bertani's changed his, thinking. And then he'll, because he has got a lot of influence in those guys' lives. But those two guys, Kamari Wilson, definitely, Phil Dunham, definitely. If Miami can land them, you got guys that already kind of broke the ice at the next level, have already kind of proven. They've got size, they've got speed, got a lot of skill and athleticism. So those are two guys right there that would jump out at me. I mean, the whole thing is as guys come out, they're being evaluated by a billion people, not just us, so that's the tough part. And there's a lot of, like, I know just from talking to a friend of mine, UNLV just landed 3 Arkansas kids, 2 defensive tackles and an offensive lineman because of Barry Odom. And see, that happens. If you have, that's why I say, you look at the relationships that, if you have a junior, there's a good bet that Mario and Cristobal and all those guys like that were recruiting them out west if they're coming out of west. So maybe they have relationships with kids like that. That's, I think you have to play on that too. And there's a couple of kids, like I know that the kid coming out of Cal, the safety coming out of Cal, and I know that Oregon, because he's from Eugene. So I know that a lot of the, Oregon was on him at the beginning. So you got to kind of wait and see who's going to come out. But as you said, the guys that you mentioned, those are 2 guys that I think Miami's really in on. And it depends. Sometimes you need a little bit of help from people who know the situation. And I've been asked, about a few kids, and I've either, if I don't say much about a kid, that means I don't think he's going to play. And I think that Mario kind of deduced that. He says to me, he says, well, at least you're honest. And I said, well, you know what, if I have an advantage because I don't just sit there in front of a tape, a machine and just watch my computer all day and say, oh, look at that. I know, I go to games and I see the kids from 6 feet away and not only how they play, but what type of, character. And that's huge because you can get a kid who runs a 4.37 and plays lights out on football, but he's a cancer in the locker room. And that kind of kills, the whole deal, especially what he's trying to build. He's trying to build that quote unquote family. And you can't do it with a kid that's, a kid that, I should be playing over him type of guy. You can't have that. So, and that's what Mario's eliminated over the first 2 years. Guys that are, if you notice, basically everybody's gone are all Manny's kids. So.
This is true. Lish, you got any preferences on any position that you want to see Miami kind of go after? Which, by the way, I want to, talk about another guy when we're done with that.
Yeah, outside of what we mentioned, offensive line and defensive line as well, like losing Leonard Taylor, we weren't that great at tackle to begin with, defensive tackle, and now with Leonard Taylor gone, we need to address it. There is talent in the portal. You mentioned some of the names earlier, but I'd be surprised if we don't go in there. And that's been an area where we've been able to go in and get guys even dating back to it. You mentioned Manny as the defensive coordinator with like Gerald Willis and stuff. We've been able to kind of get defensive tackles and plug them in and have success. And, Leonard Taylor, I don't know that he ever lived up to the hype, but he's a big miss. Like if we need to replace him. He was consistent. Like we expected him to essentially be, the next like Aaron Donald or something. And he wasn't that, but he was very good and very consistent for a long time here. And it's going to be very noticeable if we don't get a good replacement in there. He's been eating up blockers for 3 years. And that's one where I think, we kind of knew he was going to go pro and he officially announced it yesterday as well. But that is, we got to up the middle because that's the easiest way to just get run on. If you don't secure your defensive tackles, they'll just run it right up your ass. And we're probably a little bit weak there.
That's the toughest position to recruit always.
So. Yeah, but there is some talent in the portal, and we gotta get on that. And again, we do have a good track record there. It's just like with safety. So these are, we haven't. It's been a rough 2 decades, but there are certain positions where we've repeatedly produced talent, and those are 2 of them. Defensive line and safety are areas where we've been good. So I think that's one where hopefully we can sell it to kids too.
It's going to be tough. I think that there's going to be a lot of players out there that Miami's going to go after, and that Miami's ready to go after. So I think that will be pretty exciting to see what happens down the road within the next couple of weeks or so, because you're going to have a lot of players out there that are going to come for visits. Are either going to come or they're going to go somewhere else. And I think that, you know, as a fan base, I think they need to be a little patient with understanding that there's going to be a lot of movement and that you need to be ready. Because just because Miami doesn't get someone doesn't mean that, you know, that they were going after. They can't go after every single player in the transfer portal. So I think we need to kind of temper ourselves when it comes to, oh my God, this one came out. Oh my God, this one came out. Miami needs to go.
Oh no, we at this point, if I just use Twitter, we've got 400 players that we need to sign and then put out on the field. We're gonna have 10 quarterbacks actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's a couple of questions from the chat I wanted to ask you about.
Yes.
One was tight end. Do you think we need tight ends? And then you know, curveball talking elite receivers that can get separation as well.
I think if the right guy comes out at tight end, you might see Miami go after one. But look, you've got a good one in Elijah Royal if he's healthy. You've got a young one in Riley Williams that he's just learning the playbook. If he learns it, I think he's going to be fine. And then you've got one of the best athletes / tight ends in the whole country coming to play for you next year in Elijah Lofton from Bishop Gorman as well. So you've got a lot of talent there. I don't know.
Jackson Carver as well.
Yeah, Jackson Carver. You know, we'll see. He's a developmental guy still, so he's going to take a couple years. But yeah, it's another guy, right? So.
And McCormick got his 900th year, right? So.
Yeah, I think that's it for him. You never know.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know that. You know, that's the.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, look,
2 people. It's like a nuclear sub. 2 people have to turn their key, and him turning it's not enough. But to get the launch for the 9th year.
The elite receiver thing, yes. I think you still need a one. You still need that wide receiver one, elite guy. I think Jacoby George could be there. He's not necessarily there just yet, but he's on his way there. Kobe Young is another guy that has that talent, but you know, you don't know if there's going to be some guys leaving from that room as well. So they did.
Well, that's one of the questions I wanted to.
Yeah.
First of all, you know, bringing in a true freshman is not. Look, I mean, Ruben Baines are few and far between. Like expecting a guy to come in.
Expect that, but he is a top 10 player. He's a kid that's going to come in and get playing time immediately. But it's tough to expect him to replace that.
You never just say, "Oh, we got a freshman that's going to replace a 3-year starter." Like that's just rough. Even if they're like Vince Wilfork didn't start until he was a junior.
Right.
I mean, it's, you know, and I mean, this is what it is. Especially at that position, that's where you need the beef. And it's so hard to simulate at the high school level play. Like these are grown men, especially with like people like McCormick that have been in school forever. Like you'll run up against an opposing guard who's like 24.
It's tough. It's tough.
18. That's tough. Not that you can't do it, but if you're doing it every down as like you're the guy, you're getting double teamed, like that's rough for a freshman. Not that, again, no knock on Justin's guy. Just I don't assume a freshman's going to come in and just take, oh, we're covered now. Like I don't think that's the case. And that's a position you want to rotate at anyway.
Blue Curveball mentions here we need some elite wide receivers. They just offered one of the best wide receivers in the portal already. Is the kid out of Louisiana Tech, Allen. I forgot his first name already. But the kid's elite as a wide receiver. There's also some other guys out there. I know the kid Deion Burks, but he's probably again, Alabama bound or something like that. You never know. Evan Stewart obviously is in the portal as well, and Juice Wells out of South Carolina. So there's some big time wide receiver prospects that have already entered the portal. Is there a guy that you are interested? Do you like that kid from from Louisiana Tech? Is there a kid that? Oh, it's the kid from North Texas. That's another kid. Jeez, I can't remember.
I like the Stewart kid, obviously. But.
Yeah, Cyrus Allen. Thank you, Curveball. Cyrus Allen, the kid out of Louisiana Tech, and then the kid from North Texas. If anybody knows in the chat, the kid that entered, that he's elite as well. From what a lot of people are talking about. Does Miami? Do you think Miami needs to go after that wide receiver one?
I like that guy.
Which one?
Jamori Macklin.
No, Cyrus
Ray
Allen.
Macklin. That's the kid,
Yep.
Macklin, the nephew of Jeremy Macklin, who's over there in North Texas, has had a pretty big year. Are there any of those guys, Blue, that kind of catch your eye, or do you even think Miami needs to go after wide receiver one?
I think if they go out, they could get one of those guys. I love the kid Cyrus Allen. He's a New Orleans kid. I remember him coming out. Good size kid, runs real well. You know, he's like 180, but he could fly and he gets outside pretty good. I don't think they have to bring a bunch. They have a few already on the roster. I mean, that still are starting to develop. But I would like to see one other to push them.
So, Jazz, I'll throw that at you a little bit then, and
Yeah.
kind of for the group. So we have a pretty deep wide receiver room.
Yeah.
Are we expecting more of these kids to hit the portal? Because, Jacoby and Colby are still here. They still have eligibility left, right? X has not said he's leaving. He was actually our leading receiver. We got Richard. We got all of those, freshmen that
Ray, all those guys.
Yeah,
Bobby
that didn't play a lot.
Washington.
That we're like, oh man, next year they're gonna get.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're going to see some of those guys.
Where's it? Right, and that's what I was asking. So we're expecting, some of these.
Look, the good thing
Okay.
is that you're gonna. Well, it's not a good thing. First of all, you're going to see some of those guys leave, so it's obviously going to dwindle the numbers a little bit. You've got some developmental guys that they brought in last year, like Shamar Kirk, and then of course Ray and the Washington brother. So you've got some talent there, but you're going to see, like I said, you're going to see some guys leave, whether it's Restrepo going to the NFL, some guys hitting the transfer portal. But you also have, quite frankly, one of the best wide receiver recruiting classes in all of UM history.
Yeah.
You got Nye Carr coming in, Chance Robinson, JoJo Trader. I'm missing the fourth one right now. I'm losing the fourth one. Can't remember the fourth one. And then you got a potential, right? There's a lot of talk of them going after JJ real hard. Maya Smith, and I'm not banking on that. But if that guy pulls the trigger and he goes to Miami, then all bets are off, right? So it's kind of crazy. And then in the portal, you got, Jordan mentions it, Julian Fleming, who's a kid that never really truly panned out at Ohio State. Yes, we did mention Evan Stewart is the lead as well. So you need players like that.
Stewart.
Yeah, I like Stewart too. I think Stewart would be my number one guy. But realistically, I don't think Miami's going to overpay for some of these guys, right? While they are going to be aggressive, I don't know if they're going to overpay for some of those guys. So you got to take that into consideration. But you do got some of the other studs like Macklin and Allen and Wells and some of those other guys as well. So I think Miami does go after a big-time wide receiver to fill that gap. But I also think you have to like what you see from.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was kind of getting at. One is probably it, right? I think there's a ton of depth and quality, like you said. This is the position that they've recruited well in terms of there's veterans, there's developmental guys, there are instant impact guys that are coming in too. So they almost have that good spread. It's hard to shove a transfer in there. Now, again, if you're talking about elite, he moves to the top and everyone else finds their place underneath that. But outside of that, it's not a need position unless there's a mass exodus in the portal. But of course, if you can get someone elite, that's different. But it's not like, oh man, we need receivers. We have, I think, 6, 7, 8 guys you can throw to next year easily already. So I'm less worried about that position. But David does bring up another position where I do think. What are your thoughts on the corner?
I agree with you. I don't know if I necessarily agree that we need it more than the wide receiver position. The only way I can see that being the case is, some of the big names that we have now transfer out, but you've got yourself 2 boundary corners that are, one is potentially going to be a first-day guy next year, if you ask me, Daryl Porter. Okay, he's had a fantastic year. And the second guy is Damari Brown, who we all saw that he's going to be he's that dude, right? He's a dog. So if those two guys are here next year, that's your starting corners. Plus, you've got Jadaeus Richard, who showed me something at the end of the year when they started playing him a lot. He really played really well, right? So now you've got yourself three guys right there off the bat. You've got yourself Robert Stafford, who apparently is playing really well in practice and developing really well. So you've got 4 or 5 guys already. Plus, you're bringing in a couple of really good players, and the Ryan Max, and you've got some of the other guys in the recruiting class that are pretty good that you can kind of develop. But if you got guys like, as I mentioned, Porter and Damari Brown, and then you complement that with Richard and Stafford and stuff, I think you've got yourself an opportunity to have a really good DB room already. Are they going to go after an elite guy? I don't know, but they might go after a guy that can come in and and maybe be that piece that kind of helps out, that maybe has a year of eligibility left. An experienced guy like they did last year. That it didn't pan out with Devontae, of course. So that's another thing you have to look at. Is Devontae going to move to safety? Is he going to stick around at corner? Is he going to leave? There's a lot of things going on with that there, Blue. Blue, what are your takes on the DB room? Do you think that?
I agree with you. They got some really good guys, and a couple coming in. If they can get 1 or 2 guys in the portal, why not? Always depth pushing guys, but I kind of agree. I think they got pretty talented DB room right now.
Yeah, I think so as well.
I would think,
Yeah, just based off of what we saw. Frank has that question about Walter Nolan, the DT. He's going to be tough because he's going to be asking for a lot of money in the transfer portal.
Yeah, he's a big time kid, though. I think
the kid I wanted to talk to. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Blue. What were you saying?
I said he was big time when he was coming out of high school too. So
he was the number 1 player in the class, right? So here's what I wanted to ask you. The kid Javonte Mackey, right? We haven't spoken about linebacker a lot at all because we've been really happy with the play last year. But the fact of the matter is, Kiko still could be headed to the draft. If he doesn't, now you're talking about bringing him back. That's going to be huge. And then you saw how well Pullman and Popo are playing. You've got some obviously Wes. You've got some talent there at linebacker too coming back. But I think you still need one more piece there. Javonte Mackey is a kid that has all-world talent. He played really well at Arkansas State. Can you talk to me a little bit about what you like about Javonte Mackey, if you kind of know a little bit about the kid?
Yeah, athletic kid. This is a kid that, he's quick, he's strong, got great vision, good size. I like him a lot. I just think that, they're coming out of high school, a lot of people liked him as well. It's just sometimes these kids drop, for some reason or another. But, when you take a look at a kid like that, like I said, he's a commodity that I'd bring in. I would definitely bring him in if you have a chance. But there's a lot of other schools that are looking at him right now too. So it's the portal is going to be huge for, look how friendly it was to FSU the last year or so.
Yep.
A lot of the, you look at their starting offensive group, and 7 of the 10 guys are portal kids. So especially those linemen. So
pretty wild. Pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
Well, that's how you do this. Nowadays we're coming up on 2024, and things have just changed dramatically. And the other night when I was out at the playoff game, and Maryland and Pitt and Wisconsin and LSU and Tennessee were all out there, that was the one thing. Even Charlie Partridge says this portal's just killed high college football. It really has. From a benefits, it benefits the players, but it's just killing the programs. And I agree. And now the NCAA is never going to be able to do anything about it because they let all this stuff, go. And now there's nothing that you can govern, right, without about 7 billion lawsuits. So now everybody, wait a minute, yeah. So this got out of hand quick, but don't practice an extra day or buy somebody a hamburger. Shit, the NCAA will come down on you pretty quickly. And it's just yeah, but you talk to a lot of the college coaches who are out in the field every single day. Yeah. Well,
Yes, he's
Okunlolo
in the
kid.
mix. He is Okunlolo's brother. Yes.
Yeah.
That's yet
Where's
to
Brashard
be
Smith
determined.
going to go?
That's yet to be determined. Yeah. Who knows?
He's going to be. He's getting a lot of playing time. Him and Chris Johnson will probably be the return guys. Maybe Ray.
Yeah.
I think
I just think
those days of the kick return are over.
he needs to be used more on offense, and maybe he may be looking for that, but I don't know where he would go. So,
but that's the thing that scares you guys. I mean, every year we're going to be sitting here, and all these guys that used to stay around for 2, 3, 4 years, 3 years, are jumping ship, and so you never know what you got.
You got to re-recruit every single year. The guys that
every year, re-recruit all those players. Yeah, and it really cuts in to the job, because you're so busy trying to get this kid back that you already recruited, that you're spending less time on what's the objective. And that's the one thing when I talked to Cristobal, he says, when we talked about all the off-season things and the recruiting, he says, yeah, but they're useless if you don't have a team. So you got to pay attention to the kids you got on board, and maximize their abilities. And I agree. I mean, that's what it's come to. It's not that I'm an OG or living in the past, but
you are an OG.
You are.
Just makes sense that things have changed to the point that even people who are in their 20s are agreeing, and they, this is crazy. You can't live like this, but whatever. I mean, it's not up to me to change the world, but so what we'll do is we'll keep following the kids, but the one thing I have a problem with is just like you said, Jazz, is leaving to leave, without any, and that's why I said that Ja'Cory Brown, where's he going? And I'm sure his family's going to say, well, wait a minute, stay where you're at, compete. Get your education paid for at a really good school. Don't be jumping in the portal where you're going to have to apply for student loans if you go back to school.
Well, I think the thing is also, Blue, is your support staff, right? Your support group is who you have that's giving you this direction, that's giving you these, this advice. That's the toughest part. I think that not everybody has the best support group around them.
Well, one of the things that has happened is it's player empowerment and responsibility. So no one's going to tell you can't go in the portal. Welcome to adulthood, right? It's like having a normal job now. You can quit it whenever you want.
Right, exactly.
You can go to another company. You better make sure they're going to hire your ass.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. It's the same thing. So it's like welcome to adulthood for them, because before there was all these restrictions and you're kind of locked in, and that's not how the real world works. If I want to quit my job, I can do it right now.
Right. Yeah,
right? And that's so I think a lot of this stuff is just college football is becoming like any other business, any other economic system. You're free to go wherever you want, but you gotta make sure that someone's gonna pay your ass. Like, get the new job before you quit your current one is the move there, and some of them aren't doing that. It's going to bite them in the ass, and welcome to life, people.
And I think also you're seeing, things evolve so quickly that, college sports is adapting as, the transfer portal and NIL and stuff like that get bigger. Now, a lot of schools have a director of NIL or, certain NIL programs or initiatives that were just developed last year or the year before. So it's kind of like we're seeing the growth of both the transfer portal and NIL, and it's kind of forcing all of the schools to sort of adapt on the fly a bit.
John,
we got one more thing here, and then we'll talk about the bowl really quick.
But, just and then as
love Blue, but stay in the after what happened, plus the money gap is ridiculous. One man, SEC and Big Ten is going to get most of the 12 spots. Thanks for Donald Rock and Rant.
It's probably the big 72 now, but so
Well,
be it.
I mean, we talked about that at the front of the show. We agree that they're going to get most of the 12 spots. I think if there was an exit, FSU, Clemson, Miami, North Carolina schools would have taken it. It's fine to say, oh yeah, we should be in the SEC or Big Ten. I think Miami would bite the Big Ten's hands off if there was a way to get there. These idiots, and yes, our school included, signed away their broadcast rights till 2035 to this ACC conference, and no one has ever successfully broken those types of deals. So the reason the Pac-12 teams are, I believe, is their contract ended. So if it was 2034 right now, we'd all be of exit. The SEC wouldn't exist. Everyone would have found another home. Right? So far, no one's been it, and that's kind of the thing. Also, the other thing, though, just on the portal, before we talk about the bowl game, is it is at a critical mass now. It's not going to get better in terms of putting the genie back in the bottle, but once the kids who got next year because of COVID age out, there'll be a lot less kids with eligibility. Because I was looking it up because you didn't mention him. KJ Cloyd has his 5th year still because his full season he's played in 12 games in 2020. Those don't count because they made that decision not to count that year. So he's a 4th year junior, even though he's played 4 full years of college football.
Yeah, that's another kid.
12 games. He's playing 11 or 12 games every year for 4 years. He still has a year left. There's a lot of kids like that, which will not have eligibility, down the road once these COVID years age out. So that should hopefully help a little bit. It's not going to go back to, to anything that it was, but there will just be less. I know I'm watching the chat too.
By the way, the chat, yeah, Jordan and Gerbaugh going back and forth about the wide receivers. That's funny. Blue, they want to ask you
my car.
Thoughts on Nykar, Blue?
Who?
Nykar.
Beast. Yeah, big time kid. Why is that? What they wanted me to evaluate him?
I wanted you to kind of talk about him a little bit. What you?
Yeah, shoot, he's a difference maker.
Yeah,
I mean, get him in here, and he, what? He's the type of guy that gets in here and makes plays, and no matter if he's young or not, you just have to put him in. Ruben Bain type. Like you can't take Ruben out. He's making all the plays. Same thing with Nye. I mean, there's a reason why all those Power 5 teams were on him. Elite Power 5 teams were on him, and I mean, like I said, I can't say enough about Miami what they're doing recruiting. Yeah, I don't. You know what? I've while we were talking, the kid from Liberty, he can't transfer because he has not graduated. So if he goes, he has to sit out. Cause I was just asking a buddy of mine and who, he used to coach at Liberty. He says he's not gone because I'm trying to figure out he can't go anywhere.
Because he only transferred once, right?
Yeah. Well, he came from Tennessee. So yeah. He's saying.
That kid is good, though, Caden Salter.
Yeah, he is, but he was good coming out of high school, too. I mean, yeah. But Nykar's, yeah, he's that dude. I just think that Miami needs to – I think the kids that they came in with the 23 class I think they need to just start stepping up and everything's going to be fine. I just need to know, that like you said, we got to definitely go after defensive secondary. You got to definitely – you always got to stockpile linemen, as we found. Look at the difference that just in a year –
Mari's not going to not get a couple of linemen in this check.
Right, but they've already, in this class, where they have 4 or 5 in this class.
Yeah.
And the defensive line, too, has been addressed in this class, too. So, yeah, it's just I don't think Salter transferred it, but whatever. If he did, he did. He's not coming here, so it doesn't make us any.
Right, exactly.
But I don't know. The other thing is gotta. I agree with the tight ends. We have a lot of potential, but do we have any guy? Look at Louisville, how to turn a quarterback into a tight end. He ended up with 82 catches. So
that Matoyer,
Matoyer, that's another
a linebacker ended up being a tight end at Cincinnati. He's in the transfer portal as well.
Funky kid. He started at North Miami and then went to Central and
Right.
He was a linebacker when he was at North Miami. Then all of a sudden he became a tight end.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, he's got a lot of athletic ability. I don't think they ever maximized him, so. But they need somebody like Iowa's going after, I mean, they got to get that type of guy.
That's the kind of guy, right? Yeah. If
Yeah,
not, what's the point?
Well,
Oh man! All right, so let's talk about the.
Wait, hold on. I got to give you the funniest transfer portals loop here. So Tyler Buckner, I don't know if you guys saw this, it just came out. He was the quarterback at Notre Dame. He transferred to Alabama. He's actually the one who started the USF game. He transferred back to Notre Dame, but to play lacrosse. He's not playing football. Right. He quit football, and he's going back to Notre Dame to play lacrosse. Like that is
wow.
That is a circular loop in the
Notre Dame
portal.
won a national title in lacrosse last year, I think, right? Yeah. So and he's
right. We don't have a lacrosse team, therefore the sport doesn't matter.
So. Yeah. Right. What did he say? Gary says, unless hit the like button if you haven't. Unless you don't like it, I don't know your life. I don't know.
But hit the like button anyway. All right, Jasmine's been trying to talk about the bowl game like for the last 10 minutes. I keep cutting him off. So.
Real quick, we got a long time to talk about it. We got a couple weeks before the game, but Pinstripe Bowl. Miami gets to go to New York City to play Yankee Stadium against Rutgers. Some people are not excited about it. Some people are. Some people are like the cold weather. I don't know if you remember, but the Sun Bowl that we played in a couple years ago.
Yes, no.
It was a snowstorm. So let's forget about all that crap. Who cares? All right, cold weather or not. Miami went up to Boston College, and when it was like 20 degrees, and they looked okay up there. So I think that, whatever, man, rain or shines, snow, sleet, whatever it is, Miami's just got to go up there, put on a good show. Corey Brown is the quarterback. They've got an opportunity against the Rutgers team that's not very good right now. They've been blown out the last 4 games. It's not a very good team.
Got a good defense, though.
It's a really tough schedule, though.
They're a Big Ten team, so obviously.
Yeah.
And it's a home game for them, really. Hour away, 40 minutes away.
I mean, but that would require fans, so I'm not really worried about that. Like,
well, you never know. Miami's got a lot of Northeast fans. So.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think we'll represent fine. I don't know that Rutgers is it's not gonna feel like a road game. I don't think.
Yeah.
The last time Miami played like Minnesota in that game or something?
Wisconsin. It was
Wisconsin. They've only played Wisconsin 100 times.
Yeah,
Cheez-It Bowl, Orange Bowl.
It's not gone well for us. The Wisconsin.
Pinstripe or Sun Bowl or any other bowl except when it's the national title. But
we should talk about how we ended up in the Pinstripe Bowl, which is, we talked about the ACC and whether or not, Well, this is because they were caught so off guard that FSU was in the playoffs. This is how little line of sight their television partner dictates the playoffs. They had no idea this was going to happen. So after we talked about this a little bit, Blue, last week, after FSU didn't land in the playoffs, there was that cascading effect. We talked about all the bowl selections. They did not know what to do. They got stuck. That's why it was the last 4 bowls to figure out the opponents was the last 4 ACC teams. Everyone was sitting around all day. So I'm like, what's going on? So yeah, it ended up being that they had to go into their rule books and figure it out because no one thought Notre Dame would ever slide this far. But because everyone slid down, Notre Dame ended up being available. So 3 bowls out of the 4 that were left wanted Notre Dame. So yeah, they put the bowl names in a hat, and the ACC's lawyers swirled it up and pulled out Sun Bowl. So they're going to the Sun Bowl, and then the other ones filled in from there. So that's how we ended up in the Pinstripe Bowl.
Well, all I know is from
the dumbest conference. Like,
I will never look at a projection ever again. They were 99% wrong, every one of them.
Well, how can you dictate for a conference being so incompetent? Like, they don't. Like, we're just gonna draw it out.
No, I'm not just saying about Miami. They were wrong about everybody. They're putting all these bowl people, and they never went. Other than the bigger.
It always happens that way, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sitting there taking the gospel that Miami's going to play USC, Miami's going to play Oregon State, Miami's going to go to the Military Bowl. I ain't never listening to anybody again. Those guys are insane. They're terrible.
Show and entertainment reasons.
Yeah. I'm going to Danny Gillette next time. I need
well, some of the conferences. Well, some of the conferences like the Big Ten are very organized. They're like, the third place Big Ten team goes to this bowl.
Yeah.
And then there's the ACC who's like, anyone got a hat?
Yeah, right.
So you've seen both.
Where's that machine that they just roll the balls in?
Yeah, it's just like
your hand and it pops out.
Sun Bowl.
It's interesting. In my neck of the woods, Boston College is playing SMU in the Fenway Bowl.
Yeah, they got to stay right at home, right?
Yeah.
They play at home. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I feel like for the kids, don't want to travel?
Yeah. Like, look, believe it or not, like this Pinstripe Bowl, a lot of people are talking crap about it, but this is great, man. You go to New York City.
No, it's a good venue too. Like, it's a fun
Christmas
Yankee Stadium. Like, that's some stuff, man.
Blue, they're talking about, when you're playing a baseball field. What's new for Miami?
Who cares? Yeah.
Like 20 years. What are we talking about?
Well, plus, I mean, it's Yankee frickin'.
Yeah, come on, man.
Stadium and Fenway Park,
Maybe Brian Cashman will put the hecky on you or something, and
you'll
never be good again.
As great as it would be to be in like the Independence Bowl in Shreveport, I'd rather play at Yankee Stadium. Like, if it was for the championship, no, I'd want to play at a football venue. But for these types of balls, man, get that. Let's go play.
There's a lot of history here.
That's cool. I mean, that's cool. That's
and you're in New York City. Come on.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
As long as
dropping your life savings.
Say the cost of attendance is kind of high.
Well,
but they'll get people just because Miami's got a really good.
Yeah, no, the Miami fans will show up.
Yeah, and not just that, the Miami fans that live in New York, and who remember there back in the day when they sent their kid from prep school up down to Miami. Now they're lawyers and they'll bring their families and.
Yeah, no. When
everybody
I went to
waiting
the
to see
Temple game,
Miami.
it was like 3 or 4 to 1 Miami fans and Temple fans because just everyone in the Northeast that has Miami.
Yeah, I'm sure that's.
They have a Massachusetts chapter of Miami fans too, I believe.
Yeah, no, they'll be down.
Yeah, they'll definitely have a lot of fans there, and it's a good bowl for them to go to. It's like I said, Shreveport or New York City. You know what I'm saying? So.
Come on.
And it's a very winnable game too, and getting that 8.
Yes, they did open up as 1.5 point favorites, which is
they have a line on it already. Okay,
1.5. That was so weird. 1.5. It's like
I think it's the quarterback. We don't have one that's taking a snap this year. It's hard to.
I think that line will move up a little bit. Move a little. Further up.
It'll move in our favor because people are going to bet on Miami. But that's if you look we saw Jakari play last year, and thank God he's going to play this game because otherwise I don't know exactly what we're going to be doing here. But
it's going to be interesting to see if Jakari balls out. All right, I'm just saying. That's going to cause.
And we talked about this. I think it was last week or the week before. He's getting all the reps. He's going to start the bowl game against the Big Ten team. He has a golden opportunity here to put his name in the ring.
Huge. Mm-hmm. I got to run out, man.
We got to get out of here. We're done. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at 6 Rings Canes. Check out the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you tune in every Monday, 8:30 p.m. on the 6 Rings Canes show. Thank you, Blue, Vish, DJ. We'll see you guys next week. Later.
The 6 Ring Canes show. The 6 Ring Canes show. The 6 Rings Canes show.